It's 11:47 p.m., you're half asleep, and you open that money app anyway. You see a number like $103,412 or $248,900, and you just stare at it. You thought it'd feel different. So why do you feel, basically the same? And then your brain does that annoying thing where it turns a win into a problem. Is this good? Am I behind? If I lose it, am I cooked? If you've had that moment, you're not weird. You're just realizing something most people miss. The money game flips as you move up levels, and the same habits don't keep paying off forever. In this video, we're going to translate the net worth levels into what they actually mean in real life. First, we'll decode what each milestone buys you in safety, freedom, and leverage. Then we'll talk about the traps that keep people stuck at each level. Finally, you'll have a simple way to aim at your next level without feeling like you're doing everything right and still not moving. One quick number on the table so this feels real. If you've got $100,000 invested and it averages 7% a year over time, that's about $7,000 a year showing up without extra hours at work. About a flex. Just physics. And when you see that, you realize why $100,000 feels like a checkpoint, not a finish line. Now, a super important line before we go any further. Net worth isn't the same thing as cash. A $300,000 net worth can mean I'm liquid and calm, or I'm house rich and stressed, depending on what's actually inside that number. So when I say levels, I'm not giving you a scoreboard to compare yourself to your cousin's Tesla. I'm talking about what changes in your day-to-day options. How long you can go without a paycheck. How much a surprise bill rattles you. Whether a layoff is terrifying or just inconvenient. Here's one small thing to do this week. Write down your net worth in one line. Then right under it, write your liquid net worth. Liquid net worth is the money you could access in a week without selling your car or your house. Those two numbers tell wildly different stories, and most people only look at one. Alright, so what does leveling up actually feel like? At the lowest levels, every dollar is emotional because it's survival. At the middle levels, every dollar is strategic because it's about systems. At the higher levels, every dollar is protective because tiny mistakes get expensive. That's the switch most people don't notice until they're already frustrated. You're going to know in the next few minutes because I'm going to walk through the levels the way your life experiences them, not the way a spreadsheet brags about them. Let's start at the level nobody posts screenshots of, around 0. Not I have literally nothing, but my net worth doesn't protect me yet. If you've got credit card debt, a car loan that's upside down, and $800 in checking, your net worth number is basically a stress meter. Your first goal isn't investing. It's getting breathing room. A common mistake right here is trying to do advanced stuff too early. People open brokerage accounts while they're still getting hit with 20% interest. That's not ambition. That's leaking water into a bucket and buying a nicer bucket. The better move at this level is boring and powerful. Get a starter buffer, kill the highest interest debt, and make your monthly cash flow predictable. When your money stops surprising you, your brain calms down, and then you can actually build. That's the switch most people don't notice until they're already frustrated. Now, the next level is what I call the first cushion, usually somewhere around $5,000 to $15,000 liquid. The exact number depends on your life, but the meaning is the same. You can absorb a hit without instantly borrowing. A tire blows out, you don't spiral. A medical copay shows up, you don't play the which bill do I skip game. This level isn't about being rich. It's about being harder to bully. Life throws punches, and you can take one without going down. If your monthly essentials are $3,000 and you've got $9,000 liquid, that's 3 months of oxygen. That's the difference between I have to accept whatever my boss does and I can say no once. Then you hit a level that quietly changes your posture, around $25,000 to $50,000 net worth, especially if a chunk of it is liquid or invested. This is where your money stops being only defense and starts being options. You can move apartments without financing the move. You can replace a laptop without turning it into a crisis. But it's also where people get tricked. Another common mistake is thinking, I'm doing better, so I can loosen up on everything. And I get it. You want your life back. The problem is, if you loosen up on the wrong things, you stay in this range for years and you can't figure out why. The better approach is to upgrade your life slowly while you keep your savings rate from collapsing. That's the entire game in the middle class, not deprivation. Controlled upgrades. Now let's talk about the first big psychological milestone, $100,000 net worth. If you've ever heard the first $100,000 is the hardest, it's not magic. It's that before $100,000, almost all the growth comes from you. Your hours, your discipline, your choices. After $100,000, the money starts sharing the load. Run the math in your head with me. If your investments average 7% and you've got $10,000, that's about $700 a year. Nice, but it won't change your life. If you've got $100,000, that's about $7,000 a year. Now your money's quietly paying a monthly bill. That's why people hit $100,000 and feel this weird mix of pride and anxiety. You've got enough to matter, which means you've got enough to lose. The stakes finally feel real. At $100,000, the meaning isn't "I'm set." The meaning is, I've built a machine, and now I've got to keep it running. Here's where the game flips for a lot of people. They keep using survival tactics when they should be building systems. They obsess over a $4 fee while ignoring a career move that'd add $10,000 a year. So if you're around this level, ask yourself a blunt question. Is your focus on tiny leaks or big pipes? Because big pipes are what move you to the next tier. Now we slide into the range that's way more common than people admit, $100,000 to $250,000. This is the awkward middle where you've got momentum, but you don't feel secure. Market drops feel personal. A 10% dip on $200,000 is $20,000 on a screen, and your brain starts acting like you got robbed. The best thing you can do here is separate volatility from danger. Volatility is normal movement. Danger is being forced to sell at the wrong time because your cash buffer is thin or your debt payments are brutal. That's why, in this range, having a real emergency fund matters more than having a hot stock tip. If your essentials are $4,000 a month, then $12,000 to $24,000 in cash is the kind of boring that keeps you from making expensive emotional decisions. Before Friday, set up one automatic transfer that happens every payday, even if it's $50. The amount matters less than making it default, because consistency beats motivation every single time. Now let me tell you a quick story you've probably seen in real life. Two friends are both 33, both make around $90,000, both have about $120,000 net worth. Friend A gets raises and upgrades everything immediately: new car payment, nicer apartment, more subscriptions. Nothing crazy, just a little more every time. Friend B upgrades too, but slower. When income rises, most of the increase goes to investing and debt payoff, and only a slice goes to lifestyle. 5 years later, Friend A is at maybe $170,000 net worth and feels like they should be further. Friend B is at $320,000, and it feels like it happened out of nowhere. It didn't happen out of nowhere. It happened because Friend B kept their savings rate from getting mugged by lifestyle creep, and this is where people hate hearing it, but it's true. The easiest way to build net worth in the middle is to keep your lifestyle one step behind your income, not 10 steps behind. Now we're at the level where the math starts getting loud, around $250,000 to $500,000 net worth. This level means you're not just saving, you're compounding. A 7% year on $300,000 is about $21,000. On $500,000, it's about $35,000. That's why this range can feel like it speeds up, even if you don't do anything new. But it can also feel like you're walking a tightrope, because the numbers swing more. A bad year might knock you down 15% on paper, and suddenly you're staring at a drop that's bigger than your first car cost. That's why your job here is mostly not to do something brilliant. It's to not do something stupid. The big dumb mistakes in this tier are usually the same few things: panic selling, chasing a guaranteed return that's actually a scam, or taking on a giant fixed payment that kills your monthly investing. And there's a sneaky one: letting your money sit in cash because you're scared of being wrong. Cash feels safe, but over a decade it can quietly steal your purchasing power. If your money grows at 1% and prices rise faster than that, you're moving backward in slow motion. Your timeline might look different, and that's fine. Now, what does $500,000 actually mean? It means you've got real insulation. Not invincibility, but insulation. Your investments can have a strong year that rivals your annual contributions. That's wild when you think about it. You can have a year where the market does more for your net worth than you did. At this level, the questions start changing. Instead of "how do I save more?" it becomes "what am I investing in and why?" instead of, can I afford this? It becomes, what does this cost me in future freedom? Because every new recurring expense isn't just a bill, it's a chunk of your future that has to work longer. Here's a simple way to feel that in your gut. If you add a $600 monthly payment, that's $7,200 a year. If that $7,200 would have been invested for 20 years at 7%, you're not just spending $7,200, you're giving up a future pile that could have been around $300,000 over time, depending on the exact path of returns. That's why people with high incomes can still feel broke. It's not their income, it's their commitments. Now let's talk about the celebrity milestone, $1 million net worth. I want you to hear this clearly. $1 million doesn't mean you can quit your job and sip smoothies forever. It means you've built a base that can generate meaningful outcomes if you handle it right. If you use a rough 4% guideline, a $1 million portfolio might support about $40,000 a year in spending in a steady, careful way. That's not private jets. That's rent, groceries, and peace of mind in a lot of places. So what does $1 million actually mean? It means work becomes optional sooner, not optional today. It means you can change industries and take a pay cut. It means you can say, no, I'm not doing that, and you'll still be okay. It also means you're now in a zone where taxes, fees, and tiny percentage differences matter more. A 1% fee on $1 million is $10,000 a year. That's a vacation, a kitchen remodel, or a month of your life, depending on your income. So if you're approaching this level, the flex isn't the number. The flex is building a setup that doesn't leak. At this point, I'll say something that sounds almost too simple. The move is to keep investing consistently and stop interrupting compounding. People sabotage themselves by resetting the plan every time they get bored. They sell a boring index fund to chase a story stock. They pull money out for lifestyle upgrades every couple years. They jump from strategy to strategy like changing treadmills and wondering why they're not getting stronger. Compounding is a snowball, and the biggest threat is you picking it up and dropping it. If you want a clean rule, don't take long-term money and turn it into short-term money, unless you're buying freedom, not toys. Now, beyond $1 million, the levels get even more misunderstood, so let's make them practical. Around $1.5 million to $2.5 million is where a lot of people start brushing up against full financial independence, depending on spending. If your household spends $80,000 a year and you're targeting something like 4%, you're looking at roughly $2 million as a ballpark. If you spend $120,000 a year, you're looking closer to $3 million. That's why net worth without context is basically useless. A $2 million net worth with $1.6 million tied up in home equity and a giant mortgage payment feels totally different than $2 million with $1.8 million invested in low fixed expenses. So the real scorecard isn't just net worth, it's invested assets and spending. Ask yourself, how much do I spend per year on a normal year? Multiply that by 25. That's the in the neighborhood number a lot of people use as a target for long-term independence. If you spend $60,000, that's $1.5 million. If you spend $100,000, that's $2.5 million. If you spend $150,000, that's $3.75 million. Notice what changes when you do that. The goal stops being a random shiny milestone. It becomes a direct relationship between your lifestyle and your freedom. Now, if you're hearing that and thinking, so the answer is just to spend less forever? No, that's not the point. The point is to spend on purpose. This is where people mess up in a different way. They keep inflating their lifestyle like it's a reward for being responsible, and they never realize they're raising the finish line faster than they're running. So here's the rule I like because it's simple and it works. When your income rises, split the increase. Some goes to a better life now, some goes to buying your future. Sometime this week, decide a default split for raises, like 50-50. If your take-home pay rises by $500 a month, you let yourself spend $250 and you invest $250. You'll still feel your life improve, and you'll still accelerate your net worth without constant willpower. Now let's tie the levels back to what they mean emotionally, because that's where people get stuck. At low net worth levels, you're fighting chaos. Your wins are stability wins. The goal is fewer emergencies and fewer surprise bills. At mid levels, you're fighting distraction. You've got enough money for choices, and choices create temptation. The goal is systems, automation, simple investing, and career growth that doesn't get eaten by lifestyle creep. At higher levels, you're fighting risk concentration. Too much in one stock. Too much house with too little liquidity. Too much leverage. The goal is resilience, diversification, lower fixed costs, and fewer forced decisions. And here's the part that sounds harsh but saves people. The higher you go, the more your enemy becomes your own confidence. When you've done well for a few years, it's easy to think you're smarter than the market, or that this time is different, or that a big bet will speed everything up. Sometimes it does speed things up. More often, it blows a hole in years of progress. So if you're in the $100,000 to $500,000 range, your advantage is consistency and income growth. If you're in the $500,000 to $1.5 million range, your advantage is consistency and avoiding dumb risks. If you're beyond that, your advantage is consistency and protecting what you've built from fees, taxes, and emotional decisions. Notice the pattern? The higher you go, the more boring wins. Let's run 2 quick examples so you can locate yourself. Example A, you're at $180,000 net worth. You've got $25,000 in cash, $120,000 invested, and the rest is a car and some retirement savings. Your monthly essentials are $3,500. You've got about 7 months of cash coverage, which is strong. Your next lever is simple. Raise your monthly investing over time. If you can invest $1,000 a month and your invested pile averages 7%, you're stacking roughly $12,000 a year in contributions plus whatever the market does on your base. In 5 years, you're not hoping to be higher. You're very likely in a different Example B, you're at $650,000 net worth, but $450,000 of that is home equity, and you've got $80,000 invested with a $4,800 monthly mortgage. On paper, you look ahead of a lot of people. In real life, you might feel tight. Your move isn't to obsess over the number. Your move is to build liquidity and investable assets so your wealth can actually do something besides sit and drywall. That's what it actually means comes down to. Can your net worth create options, or is it trapped? Now, if you want a clean way to think about your next target, I'd use 3 questions. How many months could you live if your income stopped tomorrow? How much of your net worth is invested in things that can compound? How big are your fixed monthly payments, the ones you can't easily cut? If you don't like the answers, you don't need a miracle. You need a plan that nudges those answers in the right direction every month. And if you've gotten value out of this so far, subscribe. I'm going to keep making money maps like this that don't talk down to you. Now let's land this with the real takeaway, because net worth levels aren't trophies, they're thresholds. Crossing your first cushion